Okay, if you go to today's Moodle page, under the unit exercises, everything you need is under Part 2, where you can download Story Set 5, and also here's the instructions that go along with it. Under Story Set 5, it's the same way as we did with the previous exercises. I'm giving you an article, and in this case, since there's multiple photographs, I'm giving you multiple cut lines that go along with it. So here's cut line number 1, here's Christmas number 1, Christmas 2, 3, and 4. Make sense? Real simple. Same way for the rest of the articles, that's where you should find it. Feel free to edit the headlines, feel free to edit the cut lines as necessary. Pay attention to the orientation of each of the photos. So that's a horizontal, vertical, vertical, and horizontal. Make sense? Some of them, I think all have at least one vertical and one horizontal. But when you place them, you can change those up. Choose the ones as necessary. Let's see. Got my blank news article, so let's place one in here. As with all those, let's make room for a headline and room for body copy. We'll flow in the Christmas text. And since I've already got my body copy created, that's done. Let's put the headline up here. Let's do a medium. There we go. And we're dealing with two photographs. The first one, I'm looking for a 4-column vertical stack, one big vertical and one small horizontal. So I need to find at least a vertical and a horizontal that will work. That's a good vertical, and we'll use that as a horizontal. I placed him in here. Since I didn't create a frame, all I got to do now is just click and drag. Place him in there. Sure up the size of it. We'll put them off to the side, and let's do the same for, yeah, that one. Horizontal. Okay, got all my elements on here. Now let's have fun. Do need to make the cut lines. This was number 1, so I'm going to cut that one, paste it. And the other one was number 3. You think so? We're going to make it number 3. I'm pretty sure it's number 3. I've already taught this class once today, so. And of course, this needs to be 4 columns. 2, 3, 4. Awesome. We'll worry about the headline in just a little bit, but I know I want to keep it around 2 lines. One of these needs to be dominant, and one needs to be less dominant. Right now, do you think they're about the same size? I agree, more or less. One obviously needs to be larger. When you place it, be sure to keep your structure. So I'm going to keep that one between 2 horizontals. I do need to turn on my text wrap so that when I adjust the size of this, it'll flow around it. And as far as this one goes, I could either stick it inside of 1 column this way, that would work out, or I could stick it down below here. If I do this, I'm kind of running low on room. I definitely don't want to do something like that where it's hopping over. Other things I can do is change the size of this one. I can bring him up, and that'll buy me a couple of more inches to work with. Same way with this one. I can get away with make it a little bit shorter. That'll buy me a few more inches. Let's actually make this one still vertical, actually approaching square. I may need to actually change him up. That'll give me a little bit more room to play around with. There we go. Or drag that one down. And I can do a shared cut line on this side. Since it is a cut line, we don't want the cut lines to be anywhere near the body copy. Why would I not want to do that?
Because people think it's part of the article.
People think it's part of it. Cut lines need to be formatted differently, and just to be on the safe side, try to keep them away from it. So as far as formatting goes, we'll make it condensed and bold. Let's make it a point size smaller. And your cut lines don't have to fall on the baseline grid, so we'll take that off as well. See how fast you can go with this? Next thing I need to do, of course, would be to shore up the widows and orphans to make sure everything fits well within here. That's one big old paragraph. Track it in, that works. Hey, I got 2 lines right here. One thing I can do, let's move this down. 2 lines, and then I can bring this down. See how easy that fit? Worked really, really well right there. Then all I've got to do is work on my headline. Real easy, just like that. And then it works out really well. If I wanted to, so I could have gotten rid of, could have brought this down, let that be a lot larger. And then try to have the text fit right inside that area. So we'll make it 2 columns. Make that taller. Then of course I'd need to change up my cut line to fit within that area. -10, +10, whoop, too much. Let's do just part of it. There we go. And I can bring that down and make it work. Pretty cool. Just that easy. All you're doing is placing them in there, and pay attention to the style that I'm looking for. When I go to do the next one, next page is where I'll place my next one on there. In other words, don't try to put 2 on the same page that you're working with. Any questions on that part of the exercise? Shouldn't be anything that you haven't done already before. Here's the second part, as far as building a story library. And I found out InDesign Creative Cloud is going to ask you a question. You need to make sure you answer it correctly. A story library is a way of taking common elements and being able to save them so that you can reuse it. What I'm going to ask you to do is, once you've laid out the exercise 1, you should have created about 10 layouts. Take 3 of those layouts, make a copy of them. So in this case, I'm just going to copy this one. 3 of those layouts, copy them onto 3 different pages, 3 different stories, 3 different pages. And I want you to add the extra story elements to this. I'm going to So as far as making the bylines, pull quotes, and summaries, here's how I would go about it. I'm going to make a, let's do a lift quote. Lift quotes take a little bit of time. I'm going to do a deck or a summary. Make it as a separate text file. In my case, I'll just pull it off to here. And if I wanted to do a deck, we'll do one that spans 2 columns. So I'll go ahead and place it on here and see what it looks like. I definitely need to turn on text wrap. And so I'll just type in some dummy copy. Let's go ahead and make this Minion. Minion Pro Italic. Let's see. Local business chooses to celebrate Christmas with the Armenian church. Fun times were had by all. You may make up your own decks, just like you can make up your own headlines, just as long as it fits well with it. Let's give it some style. I could probably get away with bring it in a little bit closer. So let's turn off our baseline grid. If I wanted to add a little glyph, like a little square or a circle there at the top, here's where you can find it. You can go to Type. Your glyphs will give you all of the characters for any font. In this case, I'm still in Minion. There's a little square I could use. If I double click, now I've added it to there. We'll add a space after that. Let's turn off hyphenation. That looks pretty good. There's one style, one design for a subhead. I could easily take that subhead and I could turn it into a one column, or I could stretch it out, make it multiple columns. If I wanted to make another one, so I'll pull this one down here. Another style could be in, go back to myriad. We'll make it bold and condensed. Maybe not condensed, maybe semi-bold italic. Much better. A little bit smaller. Maybe instead of a first lead in, we'll just keep it side by there. So there's another style that I have. Make another copy. Style it up however else that you want to choose it as well. Same way for bylines. Let's make a byline for this one. Grab yourself a text box. In my case, the bylines definitely want to go at the beginning, so I'm going to make it at the width of a column. Turn on my text wrap. By Ben Ivy, credit to, you can, maybe my contact information. Ben at the clarionledger.com. We'll make it smaller. Maybe a point size bigger. That looks good. Maybe my email address. I can make that in Minion. Italic. That looks pretty cool. Here's another fun thing. If I wanted to have a line above here separating, say, this one and this one, rather than drawing it, because if I drew it and then later I wanted to change this or move it around, I'd also have to change the line. You can add what's called a rule above, or a rule to it. Speaking of ruling, there he is. To add a rule to something, I've highlighted my text. Over the very far right-hand side, this one, paragraph rules is what I'm going to open up. Turned on preview. A rule is simply a line. You can add a line above or below your text. I'm going to do one above. We'll turn it on. By default, it's going to put it on the baseline. And this is where you can change the size of it and the offset of it. So if I wanted to bring it up, there it is up above my line now. Other things are like the width of it. Right now it's the width of the column. So in other words, if I change the size of my text box, you can see it changes the size of the rule as well. Pretty cool. If I wanted it to stop right there, let's highlight it again. Bring up our paragraph rules. I can change it to fit the text, and so it'll stop wherever my text ends. So if I ever add it onto it, you can see it adds on that top as well. .com. Hey, if I wanted to add one below, I can do the same thing. Paragraph rules. This is one of those things that rule below, turn it on. There's one below. We'll offset it a little bit too. You don't use it very often, but when you do, it does come in handy. Let's get rid of that one below. Okay, so there's one style for a byline that I have. Here's how to build your library. If I wanted to save these and reuse them again, that actually looks like a news article now, doesn't it? Pretty cool. It's got bylines, it's got cut lines, starting to look a little bit better. If I wanted to save these and reuse them again, you can go to File, down to New, and here's where the library comes in. When you select library, if this is your first time doing it, it's going to ask you a question. Do you want to use the new Creative Cloud library, or do you want to use the old one? I've already answered the question, so it didn't ask me on here. But when it asks you, say no. Just say no to the new library. The old one works a lot best, so this is the one I want you to do. When you say no, it's going to ask you to give it a name, and for this one, we're going to call it Newspaper Library. I'm going to add a space to mine. Notice the extension that it is, INDL, in Design Library. When you hit save, it's going to give you a little panel to save things to. It works like any other little panel that's over here. I'm going to jump to my desktop. it'll create a library file, and this file is what you're going to save. Mine's saved to my desktop. But here's what we're going to do with it. If I've got an element that I want to save, like this is one of my cut lines, one of my decks, I drag it into there, and it saves it into here. I can then double click and say this is deck 1, and say OK. It's renamed it. If I wanted to save my byline, drag it into here, I double click, I can call it byline 1. I would make a pull quote, and save that in there as well too. The advantage to this is the next time you have an article, say I copied this one, pasted it into a new page. If I need another deck, all I've got to do is drag this deck and place it in there, and it's done. I can then go back in and change up everything that's from there. If I need a byline, drag it in here, and there's my byline that I created. Pretty cool? I've already done this for one of my newspaper dummies. Next week, I'm going to give you a newspaper library that's got the flag, and it's got the folios, and it's got the basic advertisements. So you won't have to make those. You can use my library. But if this was your article, let's open up my other newspaper library that I have. I can go to Open. Here's the one that I created earlier. I've already created 3 bylines, 3 cut lines, and 3 lift quotes. So if I wanted to quickly format this, let's put a byline in here. It's Homer Simpson. It needs a lift quote, so here's one style of lift quote that I can place into there. If I don't like that one, I can take this lift quote. This is a 2-column lift quote. Place it in there. If I wanted a cut line or a deck, kept calling it a cut line. Oh, place it below there. Let's move him down. Here's my deck. Change that to a 1-column. And I've got my story built. It took me that long. What I recommend, if you want to get a head start on your project, once you finish the exercises, play around and design out several different bylines, cut lines, decks. We're even going to make jumps, those kinds of things. Those are common things that are used in a newspaper. This starts to look more like a newspaper layout. Am I right? Pretty cool. Makes it very visual. Okay. When you're finished with this, that INDL will automatically save. This is what you're going to turn into Moodle for the exercise 2. Otherwise, for the other ones, you're going to package up your different stories and upload those to Moodle as well. Cool? Okay, I'm going to turn it over to y'all and let y'all get started.